Hey everyone, behind me today I have the 2020 Mazda CX5 Sport Maxx, which I'll be reviewing. Now, these Mazda CX5s have been extremely popular, so I've been keen to review one. Up until recently, they've been the best-selling SUV, and they're only just recently overtaken by the Toyota RAV4. Now, in my review today, what I'll do is I'll firstly take you around the exterior, and we'll have a good look at the exterior of the car. Then we'll jump in the car, I'll take you through the interior of the car. Then finally, what we'll do is we'll go for a drive in the car, and I'll talk about how it is to drive on the road. So firstly, let's have a look at the exterior of the car. So having a look at this Mazda CX5 from the front, I think it's a really attractive looking car. It looks upmarket, it looks elegant, it's got some really nice curves to it. Now this particular one is in Sonic Silver Metallic, and the owners also had a specific coating to protect the paint applied to this car as well. What I also like with this colour is the match with the wheels. So you can see the grey wheels there and the grey silver colour of the car, they match really well. Now having a closer look here, we'll take a look at these 7-inch wheels. I think the styling of these wheels is quite good. These tyres on the car are 225s and they're 65 profile tyres. I expect the ride to be good quality because of that, and they've got Yokohama tyres on that. You can see the brakes behind the wheels there, they're a reasonable size, they're not too big, but we'll find out how they perform later on in this review. So taking a look a bit further around the car, you can see it's still got that two-tone look, so there's that black plastic running along the bottom there, and then we'll take a look around the back of the car. And again, there's some really nice edges on the back of the car. I really like the edges around the lights here, the really sharp edges. I think it makes it really sporty and does make it look a bit different. So the back, you can see no plastic fake exhaust, which is definitely a plus in my column. You can see it's got the two dual exhausts there, the actual real looking exhaust. I'll just take you and have a look at the rear view camera in the back there, just where they mainly normally are, just above the number plate there. Taking a look again around another angle of the side, this doesn't have any roof rails on it, so you'd have to just put your standard roof racks on it, and you can see the shark fin aerial there just at the back. We'll take a walk around and then show you the front here. So I really like the front of this car. You can see it's got this big grille there, which sort of just looks a bit aggressive there, but also does look elegant. The lights on this are also styled really well. One thing that did surprise me actually is that this doesn't actually have any daytime running lights on it, which is strange because Mazda, they like to sort of make their cars look more European than any of the Asian car makers, and all the European cars have daytime running lights on it, so I'm not sure why they opted against using that. What you might not be able to see, you might not be able to notice, but I'll show you, it's got these little tiny fog lights down the bottom there. They're probably the smallest fog lights I've seen before, but I guess they probably do the job, but yeah, they're just tiny there. And then the sensor for the adaptive cruise control is actually in the Mazda badge here, and we'll just show you just above there. It's hard to see with the rain here. There's all the cameras and that for the different safety technology there. One more look at the front of the car there. I do like it. I do like that big grille at the front there. It really does make it stand out. And then we'll take one more look at the side of the car before we hop in the car and take a look at the interior. So let's have a look at the interior of the car. This doesn't have any keyless entry, so I actually have to unlock the car to hop in it. So I just unlocked it there, and then we'll hop inside the cabin of the car. First look at the cabin, I really like. It's sort of a lot more upmarket than you get in a lot of these Asian looking cars. Now in the Mazda, I'm going to just turn the car on so we can see a bit of the displays there of the car a bit better. You can see on the far right there, it does have a bit of a virtual DIS system. Having a look at the gauges, you've got your main speedometer right in the center there in the middle there. On the left you've got your tachometer and also a little screen telling you what your gear selection is. If I take you back to the DIS system on the right there, so you can see your engine temperature at the top there, and then down the bottom you can see your fuel gauge. In the middle there it shows you the range, and then you can see just above the fuel gauge, this car is pretty much brand new. It's just done over 2,000 kilometers. Now taking a look at the other options within the DIS window that I can control from the steering wheel, so I can have a look at my trip, my current journey, and I can also look at the average fuel consumption. I can look at my trip B, and then I can look at the service interval, so when I'm due to have a service in this car. And then final view is a lane assist, so the views can tell me if I'm going out of my lane or not. And then back to the range view. Taking a look around the cabin here, I really like it. I really think it's upmarket, and Mazdas are known for having a really nice interior compared to their Asian counterparts. So this has just got the cloth trim on it, but it doesn't look as cheap as some of the other cloth trims I've seen before. They've got a lot of leather around the cabin here, and you can see the nice leather and the stitching there on the side of the doors there. The plastic that they use around here, it's got a nice feel to it as well, and definitely a more upmarket feel. I like how the air conditioning vents look there. They look really smart. Now the infotainment system is starting to probably look a bit outdated in this, now that you see most of the, especially the European cars, starting to try and integrate it into the dash, where this one's just sitting above the dash there. Now this is an 8-inch infotainment system. If I just take you back to the home screen, we'll go through a few of the options in the infotainment system. We've got the communication, which is really just setting up your phone there. We've got the navigation, which we're just in before. That's got built-in navigation. I'll show you that again. It's not the most upmarket navigation system I've seen, but it's okay looking. And then we've got the settings here. So you've got just your different settings, like your display settings, just the different modes for the infotainment system, brightness and contrast. Then you've got your safety features that you can turn on or off, and then you've just got the sound settings here, and then you've got the settings for the clock set up, and then the vehicle settings here is more about the rain centering wipers, your door settings, turn signal, and then your lighting, which I'll just take you in so you can just see what options are in the lighting there. It's just the door opening and closing, how long the lights stay on for, the high beam control, and the lights on volume, the beeping there, and then how long the lights stay on when you lock the car. And then we go back, got your speed alarm here, then you've got your device settings at the top there. This, if you plug it in, can either have an Android Auto or Apple CarPlay, so it supports both those devices, and obviously it has Bluetooth. And then just some of the different system settings for the infotainment system there. A wide variety of different options there in the settings that you can make changes to if you want. And then we'll just skip around the other side. You got your different entertainment here, so this has got a digital radio in it. You can connect it to a USB sockets as well there. And then the different applications that you can use on it. So you've got a fuel economy monitor here. Have a quick look at that. We're not driving at the moment, so it's not going to give us any reading, but this gives us a bit of a graphical display of the car and how we're doing with fuel. So the current fuel consumption is showing us 8.5, as you can see. And then you've got a vehicle monitor status, some warning guidance, and then just some maintenance side of things by the look of it, services and things like that. So that's the infotainment system. As I said, it looks okay. It's not the most crisp, clear entertainment system that I've ever seen before, but it still looks alright. There's a few different features available in that system. If we come down and we have a look at the other areas of the interior here, so we've got climate control on this one. This has got dual zone climate control, and that's all controlled here. And then I've just opened up the cigarette lighter there, you can see, and then it's got some storage here. You've got the gear stick here, and you've also got Tiptronic on that. Again, don't mind the plastic finishes that they've got here. You can control what mode you want the car to go in via this button here. So if you want to put it in the sports mode, you just push it up and like that, and if you want to take it out of sports mode, you'll just push it down, and it will show you whether you're in sports mode or not just by the display there. So it doesn't display on the infotainment system or anything like that. So it's fairly basic sort of sports mode button. Having a look at the other buttons down here, you've got the automatic handbrake, you've got an auto hold button here. As I said, you can control the infotainment system from down here, or it's touch screen, but when you're driving you'll need to use the knobs here, which is that big knob in the middle there. And then you've got your home button. You've got some shortcuts to your music or navigation systems and some favorites that you can set up there. It's two cup holders here, and then a glove box here where you've got some different areas for storage, and you've also got two USB sockets in there which you can see, so that's where your USB sockets are. And then another cigarette lighter as well in case the front isn't enough. And you might be able to just see there, the lighting's not very good. You can go an area which I'll point out just there for an SD socket as well if you want. So we'll take you back to the steering wheel here. Now there's a range of options on the steering wheel here, and to be honest, some of them weren't as easy to figure out as I jumped in the car. So on the left there you've got your volume button and then your speech recognition. What I was controlling the DIS system with was this info button here, and then you've got your phone buttons just below that. This has also just then got the wiper buttons just behind it there, and as you can see, this does have the paddle shifts on there if you want to change the gears via the paddle shifts, which is a new feature for the 2020 models. Models prior to this for the Sports Max didn't have that. Looking over the other side, so you've got your adaptive cruise control distance button, then you've got your just standard cruise control buttons here, and then you can just turn on cruise control there if you want, and then off, and then you've just got your standard blinker and light buttons there. So having a look at some of the safety buttons are here. You've got your iStop, which is your start and stop, which you can turn on or off, and then in the middle there you've got your lane assist, which you can turn on or off, and on the right there you've got the traction control, which you can turn on or off as well. And having a look over here, you've just got your mirror and window buttons. Now this car has just manual seats, so there's no electronic seats here. But all in all, I do like the cabin inside here. I do think it's a lot more upmarket than some of its Asian counterparts. So let's take a look in the back and see how much room is in the back of the car. So sitting in the back here, it does feel like a fair bit of room actually. I've read that some people say that it doesn't have too much room in this, but you can see I've got a fair bit of leg room in there. And also the headroom is pretty good as well. So you can see I'm not the tallest of guys, but you can see there's still a fair amount of headroom there. So not bad inside here. Let's take you around the cabin. So if we take you around the cabin here in the back, it looks alright. There's a fair bit of room in there. You can see the child's car seat in there to give you a good idea of sort of how much room there is once you have the child seat in there. It's got the two air conditioning ducts in the back here which you can control, and it's also got the cup holders here in the back. You've got two cup holders and a bit more storage space there. You've got a little bit of storage space that you can lift up and store some stuff as well in that center armrest if you want, which is a tiny bit different. I haven't seen that before. Now the drive shaft doesn't come up too much in this, so you get a reasonable amount of leg room in the middle there, but that middle seat doesn't look massive, so I'd say two adults in here, especially with that car seat there, would start to get a bit squashed. So let's take a look at the boot space and see how much room is in the boot. Opening the boot up here, and let's take a look at the boot space in here. So I have to push the boot up there a bit. So having a look at this, looking at it, the boot space doesn't look too bad, but if you compare it to some of its competitors, it is a bit smaller. So this boot space is 442 litres, where its other competitors like the RAV4 have about 480 litres. It is a bit smaller than its competitors, but still does look a reasonable size. So you've got a few little storage spots down here as well. So you've got one storage on the side here where you can store some small items, and then you've got something similar on the other side. You've got the 12-volt socket there if you want to plug anything in there, and then you've got hooks for child seats in all of the seats there. Now these seats will split 40-20-40, so you can fold these down any which way if you need that extra room. Now another cool thing I just saw in this car is it's got a cargo net / privacy blind, which I actually haven't seen before in any cars. So it acts as a cargo net, but it also acts as a privacy blind, and I think you can have a better look if I go out a bit further there. So that's a pretty cool feature. I do like that feature on it. Now this has got the spare tyre in the back here. It does look more like a temporary tyre because it's definitely not as big as a standard tyre, but it's still a lot bigger than the standard Space Saver tyre there. This model's just got the manual close here, so if you went a model up you could see that's where the automatic close would be there. So just close the boot up, and we'll come back here and just take another look at the car before we take it for a drive. Alright, well let's take this car for a drive and see what it's like to drive. Now driving the Mazda CX5, Firstly, everything feels really nice in the cabin here. The visibility, I didn't need to make too many seating adjustments to get comfortable in here. Pretty much jumped in and I was comfortable. I had some good visibility. You sit quite high, so you can see over the bonnet and see in front of you really well. Looking around the cabin in terms of visibility, there's not too many blind spots. So just at the back there, the back A-pillar there, where often in these SUVs you'll find a blind spot, there is a bit of a blind spot. They've put a little window there to try and minimize that, but your mirrors are quite big, so they sort of cover those blind spots anyway looking in the mirrors. So visibility around the car I think's really good. In terms of technology in this car, so this car has a heap of technology as standard, which is great, and a heap of safety features which is part of that technology. So I'll take you through some of that technology. So what we've got the technology wise is we've got emergency braking, we have lane keep assist, we have cross traffic alert in it, we have blind spot assist in it, we have adaptive high beam, so you can keep the high beam on and it will just lower the beam of the lights if you have an oncoming car or something coming towards you. It has adaptive cruise control, so pretty much everything that you need it has standard, and a lot of this technology you actually have to pay more for in the European cars. The sound system of this car, so the sound system in this car, I'm always pretty critical of the Asian cars because I just don't think they put as much effort into their sound systems as their European counterparts. And to be honest, this kind of follows a trend a bit, but it is one of the better quality sound systems for the Asian made cars that I've heard before. So it's got a reasonable amount of bass and a reasonable amount of quality to it, but if you are really particular, they do have a $2,500 option, which is upgrading to the Bose system, which I'm sure is fantastic. This car doesn't have the Bose system in it, but I'm sure it will be a good system because I know I've heard it in the Porsches and Audis before, and it's a very capable system. So if you want a good sound system, Mazda's giving you a great option for a good sound system. Handling of the car. Now the handling's it's a bit strange in this car. I thought it would sit a bit flatter around turns. It handles okay, but you still get a reasonable amount of body roll in the car. But again, it's not supposed to be a sports car, it's a family car, so there's got to be some give and take as well. In terms of how it feels to drive on the road, it's really smooth. It absorbs any big bumps really well. You don't have any problem with feeling any big jolts in the cabin or anything like that at all. The noise in the cabin, it's not too bad. It's not the quietest cabin I've been in before. Maybe it's the engine, which is not the most refined engine I've been in before, which you can hear a bit of the engine noise when driving. So it's not the cabin isn't the quietest cabin I've been in before. The brakes on this car are okay. They feel a bit soft. It feels like the pedal's really long. It feels like you've got to do a lot of pushing to get the stop hard. So initially when trying to stop, so I'll just do a quick stop here, kind of like you go slowly and then you just got to feel it pressing harder and then it sort of stops you quick. So it feels like a bit of a long brake pedal there. In terms of the engine of this car, you've got a few different engine options. This particular one has a 2-litre 4-cylinder engine in it. You can upgrade to the 2.5-litre 4-cylinder engine, which is a bit more powerful than this. And there always is also a diesel alternative, which is a 2.2-litre engine as well. This particular 2-litre engine is 115 kilowatts and 200 newton-meters of torque. Not a huge amount of power, and I'll come back to the actual performance and we'll test how that power feels on the road shortly. Now, Mazda say that the fuel consumption of this is 6.9 litres to 100 kilometres, which I think is quite good for a car that's pushing 1,800 kilos on the road. If you go up to the 2.5 litre variant, it's a bit more thirsty. It's a combined 7.5 litres to 100 kilometres. The gearbox in this, now Mazda has decided not to go with the dual clutch gearboxes. They've decided to stick with a torque converter gearbox. So across the whole CX5 range, you're going to have that same gearbox in it, and that's a 6-speed torque converter gearbox. And to be honest, it's pretty smooth. It does the job. It's maybe not as smooth as some of the dual clutch gearboxes I've driven before, but it's not hugely noticeable, to be honest. You really, unless you were really thinking about it, you really wouldn't notice the difference between this gearbox and the dual clutch gearbox. And I know that Mazda have put a bit of time into this gearbox to put some technology behind it to make it as smooth as possible. The turning circles are also really good in this car. I was quite impressed with the turning circle. So back to the performance of this car. So again, this is a family car, it's not a performance car. So Mazda say it does over 10 seconds, so around 10.5 seconds to 100 kilometers. It's definitely not the fastest SUV on the road. And what I'll do is, it's a new car, so I'm not going to push it too much. It's only done a few thousand kilometers, so the engine's still being bedded in. But I will accelerate just so you can hear the engine noise, just so you can sort of get a bit of a feel for what that acceleration looks like. So I'm going to put it in sports mode here. It's now in sports mode, it just automatically jumped up a gear. I've also got my Tiptronic paddle shift behind here that I'll use as well. And then what we'll do is we'll accelerate, and then I'll just tell you what I think about the acceleration. Okay, so accelerate, I'll just change the gears a bit earlier so I don't rev it fully out. First gear, it does take a while to get going. Second gear feels a lot better. Yeah, it's not the most powerful engine, to be honest. It's probably more than adequate just getting you from A to B, but you definitely, if you like more powerful engine, you definitely want to go for the 2.5 litre. And what I do find a bit strange that Mazda don't actually have a proper sports version of the CX5. I think they would sell quite well. I know that it'd be a bit tricky about what engine to put in there, because the top of the range turbo version of this is only 170 kilowatts and about 265 newton meters of torque. So if you compare it to the Ford Escape, which has over 300 newton meters of torque, there's a big difference there. So I think Mazda would be good to sort of either see how much they could tune their 2.5 litre 4-cylinder turbo engine out, see if they can make a variant that's about 200 or 220 kilowatts, boost the turbo up in that or something like that. I think that would sell actually really well, but something that Mazda obviously decide that they don't want to do, and you know, I guess that's their choice. But I guess me being a bit of a rev head, I think it'd be good if they had just a variant that was a bit more powerful than what they've currently got on the market. To finish off, what do I think about this car overall? Look, firstly, we'll start with the negatives, and to be honest, there's not too many negatives I have really. I've got to really scratch my head to sort of find the negatives. I just mentioned the engine, which is probably one, and it could have a more powerful engine, but again, this is not a sports car, it's a family car. The boot space, if you compare it to its competitors, it is a bit smaller. You're a bit limited there compared to the competitors. And probably the only other thing that really comes to mind is the handling. There's a bit of body roll there in the handling. In terms of what I like about this car, there is a lot to like about this car. First of all, the looks. I love how it looks. It looks really refined, really like a European car. Outside and inside, and how it feels, I spoke about it before when I was showing you the interior. It feels very good quality. There's no cheap plastics in this car. The steering wheel feels like I am driving a European car. It's got a nice leather feel to it. It just rides really smoothly inside the car, like it's riding the bumps really well. There's a lot to like about this car. The technology, it's got a heap of technology standard, which I love as well. It's definitely worth having a look at this if you want an upmarket car, which again is not going to cost you too much, because this one costs just under $40,000, and you're getting something that's more of a European car than your basic Asian model. So it's definitely worth having a look at one of these cars if you are looking for something that's a bit more upmarket looking inside and out compared to your more standard basic other Asian looking cars. And it does also ride a lot better than most of those cars. Well, again, thanks for watching today, and if you do like my videos, please feel free to subscribe.